and welcome to the Divorce Allies Workshop Series. I'm Emile Flowers, and I'm here with Melissa Gragg, financial expert, valuation specialist, trauma-informed mediator. Anything else, Melissa? Should we keep going?
Who knows? Financial media. Yes, all the things.
So I'm glad you're here.
This is amazing. I think we're going to talk about a topic that we see in a lot of divorce cases, but we don't really talk about it. And inherited trauma and money are a lot of the stories that we tell. And, they cover safety, they cover power, they cover how these things are talked about over generations. And they really impact how you negotiate a divorce. And we know that because we have these conversations with a lot of our members. But, what are you thinking about this topic?
It's so unfamiliar to me. I'm completely out of my realm, and it's been fascinating learning about it because I am starting to notice that I do have some like generational trauma around money. I think trauma for me is a very strong word. I think it's too much, almost like I have generational feelings about money that
Okay.
I need to kind of tell my brain. And you've actually been helping me with that. So I think trauma a little bit is too much, like too harsh for me.
Oh, I think trauma and abuse are two words that are very hard to hear in a divorce. And yet that's probably what we've gone through. And again, it goes back to not really putting so much negativity or positivity onto it. Like, let's not try to spin our trauma so that it's a beneficial piece of our life. Like, let's not to act like we were so traumatized as the same as somebody who maybe was abandoned or an orphan or, these types of things. It's really starting to take these words and say, how can I just look at my life, what I've experienced, and say, do I want that to continue? Because divorce is like this big time to reevaluate everything. You're forced to reevaluate it, right? And so you can then start to say, okay, well, how did I get here? And what are some of the core truths that maybe I don't think are as truthful anymore, right? Like, do I want to carry that limiting belief or that kind of messed up thought? And it's almost like, instead of being like, oh yeah, I know I don't deal with money very well, let's change it. Let's be like, okay, well, how can I deal with it well? How can I deal with the lack or the abundance mindset, right?
Absolutely. And I do think in the divorce realm, there absolutely is abuse on different levels, and there absolutely is trauma on, but it's like a scale, almost like a spectrum, I would say. And so, it's, hey, I thought this was true. All, rich people are, cheaters. I don't know, like whatever the thing is, right? I don't know where that came from, but I'm just saying something that, may or may not be something that somebody believes. And then retraining your brain to go, well, when I'm rich or when I'm wealthy, I will be this very, honest, forthcoming, transparent person. And, or, I am becoming, right? Those are the words we use, right? In abundance, I am becoming, right? So again, trauma is it's almost a trigger word for me. Trauma and abuse. It's like, that's a little much for me, but I have feelings about things.
That's interesting because I think that a lot of people probably experience the same thing. Like, I don't want to say I'm traumatized. I think I led a pretty good life, right? I don't want to say that I've been abused because, people have talked bad to me my whole life, right? Like, those are trauma responses to the fact that you're not able to acknowledge that pain, that hurt, that fear, and being scared and fearful of you becoming like that, right? And
Yeah.
so that this entire discussion is going to resonate with people because they probably feel the same way. They're like, well, like I have an experience, like my girlfriend, she was in a domestic violence situation. Like that's abuse, right?
Yeah.
Or my friend, had a bad car accident with all of her family and somebody died. Like that's trauma. Those are the big issues of
Yeah.
abuse and trauma. And what they do is prevent us from acknowledging and accepting that we may need to heal from the baby traumas or the baby abusive, like if you want to go internally, how many times do you talk negative to yourself? That is abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
This negative self-talk, that negative self-talk is typically from other people telling you these same things, and you started to believe them. You started to believe, you know what? I'm really loud. I'm really bossy. I'm really this, because people have told me that for forever, as
Sure.
opposed to saying, okay, but how do I lean into that as a superpower? How do I lean into that as that made me resilient, that made me unstoppable? So it's a shift in taking that power back of that narrative, like we in my family call each other big backs. Like it feels better than saying like fatty patati, right? So, and that's a very negative, abusive language. Whereas if we own it and we're like, yeah, we're going to have Big Back Friday and we're going to go get us some good food. Like we have taken the power back in
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't define us. And that's where I think in divorce we're headed, is that we have been defined by our negative relationship. We have been defined by the lack or the abundance of money, but we never had control over it, right? It was
Yeah.
around us, but we couldn't get to it. We couldn't decide to do something. And so it's kind of, how do you start to harness the power of those thoughts that somebody put in, or I don't believe them, right? I don't believe that you have to be stick thin to be beautiful,
Yeah.
right? So I changed the narrative. I changed how I talk to myself. And then I don't allow people to talk to me in that manner as well. And so you can look at it internally and you can start to say, like, hey, I like being a big back, right? I don't like being a fat ass. Like, I don't want to be called that. I don't feel
Right.
that that is a good connotation, but like big back is like, yeah, I got this, right? So that is like a very tangible shift in a narrative. And I think what we're going to be talking about today, or already have been, is how do you shift that narrative? Like, you don't even want to act as if you're traumatized or have any of these things, because it's hard to take that introspection, right? It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to face that in your own situation and to acknowledge it, because you're like, I'm sure people have had it worse than me. That is a female trait. Like,
That
we
is.
don't,
Yeah.
like, oh, I know you had it worse than me, so I'm not going to talk about my pain. No, this is an opportunity to be like, hey, I was hurt in the past. Why did I make those decisions? Why did I choose to put myself in situations where people would treat me like that? Because if you look around, there are patterns in the behavior. So inherited trauma has patterns in it, patterns about how I always lose my money, patterns about how I can never save any money, right? You might be in a relationship where you've seen somebody play fast and loose and you never had money, but you always had big things, right? You were
Right.
always buying a Hummer or a Tesla truck with cash, right? But every month the money is so tight that I don't have money to pay bills, right? So it's when you're in misalignment with what you
Mm-hmm.
truly believe, and you're listening to what other people in the past have told you. And then also, like, if you grew up poor, like there could be things that when you were really, really, really young, that you ingrained that, like, wealthy people are bad. They treat people bad. They're not nice. I don't want to be like them. So as long as I don't have money, I'm never going to be like that. Those are limiting beliefs. Those are things that keep us in lack. And as we're getting divorced and we're stepping into our abundant future, we have to start looking at money different. We have to start looking at it as inflow and outflow. It's just flow. As it comes in, you have things that it needs to go out to, right? Yeah. And so that sort of cycle, I think, is going to get people thinking, like, you can't just be like, okay, now I have money, I can't spend it. No. Right. Abundance is flow. So comes big money, comes some big expenses. So then you have to be like, well, I want it to come in more than it goes out.
It should be like the air you breathe, right? Yeah. In and out.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we get that. Like there's a lot of criticism about like our travel habits and things like that, where it's like, you guys travel more than flight attendants. And it's like, and it's meant to be hurtful.
Right.
And because of, what we do or not being around or whatever. And I'm like, the phone is right here. Like it gets answered. If I'm in a national park, it gets answered. If I'm in another country, it gets answered.
But explaining people is also an issue, right?
It's a trauma response.
Yeah. So moving towards, like, I don't need to explain, because when we explain, I think that we don't feel as confident about those decisions, right? So when I have to go and explain, like, hey, I like to, like, you might like to go buy a Range Rover. I would like to go to a national park every month and go see the world, right? So at the moment that you stop explaining to people and you don't feel the need to correct them, then it's because you feel so confident in those decisions that I don't need to explain it to you. And if I do, you're almost registering with that person is like, how does this impact you? Because that's where we are, is that we feel like other people's things or actions have some sort of implication for ourselves. And that's also not necessarily true. Like it's getting back into that of like, that's great for you. Like, I love that for you. You like to go camping. I would like to go in an RV. Like, I don't want to be going to the potty in the middle of the forest. And other people would be like, what? That's so much fun. And I'm like, it is not for me. Right?
Exactly. No. And you are 1,000% correct. I didn't really even think about it until we actually had this discussion. And we explain ourselves when we're unsure of maybe the decisions that are made or why do we even care what people think? But women do. Why?
Yeah. And if you're going to be different, like if everybody else has gotten divorced and they immediately go to trying to find their next relationship, immediately go to trying to do, like, all of those things are sometimes to fill the voids that are in yourself. And so if you work on yourself and you start to say, okay, where am I lacking? Then you're going to be doing things different. You're going to be doing things that people are going to be like, oh, I don't know. They're going to have judgment around it.
Yeah.
And the more you get comfortable with the fact that I am choosing things that are in my own best interest, you will not care what other people think. You will not waste time trying to figure out how to validate it for them and defend your actions. You will just walk in that purpose. And as you walk in that purpose, the people who see it as like, ooh, yeah, that could be my purpose, will join you, and they will be lifting you up. And some of those other people may fall to the wayside. Like, that happens when you do some introspection. It's normal.
Absolutely. And I think we could do a whole episode on parenting decisions. And I mean, you want to talk about judgment about parenting decisions. It's like, we need to do like a whole healing process about that.
Right.
People look at other people. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of comments. I'm sure you get them too, about whatever decisions. And my children are grown, and I still get comments made, and I'm thinking they're grown-ups. Like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
what's the matter? You know,
Well,
I'm
and,
done
and
raising them.
it's a good lead up to the fact that, today we're kind of talking about inherited trauma and
Yeah.
where some of these money stories are held, but it's also how you start to feel safe, how you start
Mhm.
to release some of that shame and open up to abundance after divorce. And this piggybacks on some conversations that we had this week. We've been having these conversations about trauma, about, trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But also now it's like you're going to have to let go of some of those money stories. You're going to have to let go of some of those old thoughts about, your past life. And how do you start to move on? And a lot of times you're doing this inside, you're still in the divorce.
Yeah.
The more that you can behave and operate as if you already have validated yourself, that's going to help you in mediation. That's going to help you when everybody, the mediator, the attorneys, everybody is coming at you and telling you to do something different. You will be able to cement in your power and say, no, this is what I know is right for me. You will be able to say no if it's not aligned. But this is actually, talking about some of those fallacies about money,
Mhm.
right? Where people are panicking and things like that. But how do we kind of get started in this conversation?
Well, I think we have some, like, probably 5 different, very common questions, right, that come up on a regular basis. So we'll just dive right into those,
Yeah.
5 or 6 questions. So, why is it that so many women panic about money, even when there's a settlement, even when there's support, even when, I don't know. They could get millions and still panic about money. So it's not really about logic, is it? It's there's something deeper, right?
No. It's interesting because, I deal with a lot of high conflict, high net worth individuals that will walk away from a divorce and have millions. I deal with a lot of people that walk away from divorce and don't have a lot either. But when you have millions in the bank, there's still this kind of craziness that they go through. Like, basically, like, and I'm asking them, right? Like, why are you panicking about money when you have $2 million in the bank, right? And the thing is, their nervous system doesn't speak math, it speaks memory. And so if you inherited that money is dangerous, or money leaves, or you don't have enough to survive, or you don't have enough in the bank to retire and you're already close to retirement age, your body will act as if you are unsafe, no matter what your bank account says, right? And you will start like hoarding, you will start like keeping the money and be like, okay, like I have people that come in to play for like $10 million. Okay, let's use this as an example. So $10 million comes into your bank account, full cash, right? You can do whatever you want. And I have individuals that will be like, well, I'm going to live as if I don't have anything. I'm going to keep all my expenses low. I'm not going to spend it. I'm going to put it in the bank, and I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to use it to create more wealth. I'm not going to use it to create happiness or joy, right? That
Yeah.
is a money trauma response.
Hmm.
They haven't ever felt like there was enough, because in this world, people don't tell you that what happens, or train you for what happens when there's enough. Like right now, I have enough clients. I shouldn't be concerned about anything, right? But that panic always sets in because people around you are always in lack. That energy is always like, there's never enough money. You can't even, like, if you sat here with $10 million in the bank, you probably could not have normal discussions with the friends or family around you without them feeling some sort of way, right? Well, you should be paying for everything now. Well, we should be going and doing these things. And there might be some truth to that. There might be that there's a level of abundance that you can start to share it, but that doesn't feel good always because no one did that for you, right? And so you got to kind of start to unwind. Or your parents were always like, there's never enough money, we're always going to be in this situation. Like, think of all of those things that come up, almost like the subconscious things that come up when you're spending something. Like, I get paralysis around spending big dollars, and big dollars to me means like more than 500.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not talking about thousands. I'm like talking about like I don't buy expensive purses or expensive shoes or any of those things. Like, I literally have panic attacks when we're like going to buy a car, right? I'm like, right? Well, that's not me. Like, I love cars. I would love to have a Bentley or a Rolls Royce. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's a disconnect in what I have been taught or what I think and what I know to be true. And so that's where the work has to be done. We're not saying that we know exactly what your money trauma is. We're saying as you go into this next phase where you have a settlement offer or you have money that's, like, you're going to be safe enough. Like, if you have enough to get you for 2 years where you can heal or get a job or don't get a job, like, how much money would that need to be in the bank? 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand, whatever that is. Like, and if in your mind you keep on going up, well, maybe it would be $1 million. Well, maybe it would be 5 million. I would feel comfortable with 10 million. Well, I mean, 20 million would be great. Well, maybe 30. Like, the fact that you can't understand that probably $500,000 would allow you to lead the next 2 years of your life worry-free, right? Like, other people in this, they're listening to this, be like, hey, if I just had 100 grand, I would be living the soft life. So you have to start not necessarily putting a dollar amount on it, but allowing yourself some space to be like, okay, now look at your bank account now. Like, do you have enough for a couple months to feel comfortable? Then allow yourself to get out of that fight and flight, because that is a constant, like, hustle, 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 right? Okay. Yeah. If you feel like you're hustling all the time, if you feel like you're constantly worried about money, is that from the past? Have you worried about how you're going to pay the bill? Have you not looked at your emails because you're afraid there's a bill collector, or there's somebody that's going to be like, oh, that's late, or, oh, your balance is below the limit? Like, are those the things? So you're constantly in a state of paralysis because you're expecting that to happen. In the fact that you're expecting it to happen, the universe is going to come through and make it true. So that's where the delusional abundance mindset comes in, of saying, I have enough. I have all that and I create things to flow in so that when those bills come, I have it. These are where those sort of mantras, because if it's been ingrained in you for 30, 40, 50 years, it means you're going to have to like kind of introduce different things to be like, like in my world, it means I have to go buy things that cost $500, right? I have to, and things that I like, I still, when I think I make the best decision for that, I'm like, but what if more doesn't come in? Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay the next. What about the next month? What about the next month? Right? That's an anxiety about a fear of something going to happen because it has happened in the past, because your memory of it is that that's how we've always lived, right? And now you find out that your husband or your spouse has a ton of money on the side and you never needed to live like that, right? That's where that realization starts to come in. How do you treat the money different in the future? If somebody said, well, you never had access to money because you don't know how to handle it, right? So those are the thoughts that still are in play if you are going to receive millions of dollars and still are hyper concerned that you are going to die after this process,
Yeah.
right? That's trauma. That's not real life. And so anywhere where there's a disconnect, that's where you want to go a little bit deeper and say, okay, is there some sort of story behind this? Is there some sort of pattern that maybe started with my parents, started in my teens, whatever pivot points, it's introspection in your own kind of historical story around money. And working through some of that is going to make it so that when you do receive something, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to take that and make something even bigger from it.
I mean, that's such a helpful reframe. It blows my mind how the body holds so much, and you don't even realize it, not even a little. And if you've been told that you're not good with money or whatever, now you have all these feelings of incompetency.
Yeah.
And it's you're not incompetent. There's not even a little, but I mean, the body held it and held it and held it. So, all right, let's move on to another one. Cause I mean, this is so just spot on with what happens. I tend to dismiss some of the stuff and I shouldn't, because it's very true. So when clients say, I can't make decisions right now, because you and I both know that happens on the daily, they think they're failing. And so, but what's really happening in their brain when that happens?
That's sort of decision paralysis. And so, how can I make divorce decisions when I'm feeling overwhelmed? I don't know if it's the right move. I have a lot of voices in, I have an attorney, or I have experts, or I have all of these people. You really can't make some of those decisions, right? And that doesn't mean that you are weak. It doesn't mean that you are not smart or you're, you don't know how to make these decisions. It means that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do under a threat. And it's protecting you from making the wrong decision. And you have to start looking at this as when your nervous system is in survival mode, your executive functions sort of start to shut down. You freeze, you fawn, oh, let me help you. Let me help you. You agree to things that you wouldn't do if you felt safe, right? And that's why this nervous system regulation or dysregulation is kind of understanding it is the basis of a good strategy. You're going to need to make decisions in this process, and you're going to need to make them from a position of power. And that means that you have to start doing things that you may not have done in the past, being confident, being strong, knowing what you want, right? I mean, the biggest issue that we have is we ask people, what do you want? We ask them about the house all the time. Do you want the house or not? And they don't have an answer, right?
Don't. I talked to somebody yesterday, same story. And she's like, I don't really want the house. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to keep the house.
Yeah.
But, and then it's all this reason.
But everybody tells me if I have the house, then I have security, right? Whereas in their mind, that house has never been security. It's never been safety. It's never been fun or enjoyable or happiness or joy, because at the end of a divorce, usually the house is where a lot of the trauma and abuse happens, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's giving yourself permission that even if everybody says you're wasting money on renting, you do it anyway because you have the capability to have the cutest apartment ever with frilly stuff or not, black and white, whatever you want it to be. You get a cat, you get plants, whatever things that you wanted that you were never allowed to do, the freedom in that and the safety and the security of having a new space, a new bed, a new way to allow the body to start to exist without the fear of what's going to happen, the jiggling of the door, right? And the banging of the door open. All of these things the body remembers. And so if you start to regulate, a lot of what people don't understand is that even being in a new environment, not having that energy around you, not having the energy of the stuff that constantly reminds you of like, oh, that's the chair that he pushed me down in and started to strangle me. Oh, that's the bed that all of these really bad things happened. Like, get rid of it. Allow yourself to have a new perspective on the outside that will then allow your body to be like, oh, wait, okay, maybe this is safe, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't feel like, oh my gosh, are those footsteps coming in? Because a lot of times this is what the end looks like when you hear somebody entering the garage and then you hear the door jangle to the garage door and you start to go into that panic. You start to be like, oh my gosh, is the food hot? You know, is he ready to, like, what is he going to need? Blah, blah, blah. You're doing all of this trauma response around trying to make somebody else happy, right? And you could be doing it with your kids or anybody, you know, you could be taking care of parents. Anywhere where you are abandoning yourself for the benefit of somebody else, it has to stop. You have to get more selfish. You have to get more like granular on, do I want it? No other voices, not your friends, not your family, no other voices. Well, it would feel really good to go rent someplace that had a little tiny rent amount, right? I'm living in a big house that has a $10,000 mortgage. I would love to just have $1,000 rent. Like, that sounds so freeing, right? That makes me feel like I could save some money and do the things that I want to do. You have to start connotate that big money doesn't necessarily mean safety and freedom. It means you have to figure out what you want when you've been in an environment that maybe everybody has told you what you want, right?
Absolutely. That, and just because you're making a decision right now doesn't mean you can't change that decision later. Even if it's a refinance on a house, you can refinance it, hang out for 6 months, you know, just get that off your plate, that negotiation part of it, refinance it, keep it for 6 months, sell it, right? And go do something different. It's like you're not stuck, but we get stuck because we think every decision that we're making right now for this agreement is permanent. And our brain gets completely stuck in the fact that we cannot make another decision in 2 months, 3 months post divorce.
And you have some toxic person telling you like, oh, you're going to be a loser if you let this house go. Oh, you're just going to move. How are you going to explain that to everyone? You lost everything. I told you you're not going to get anything. Again, you know, like, we're kind of using the negative talk in a very visual way. Like, you have an ex that is doing that, but it could be self. Inherited trauma is even with your parent, you know, like, what did they say all the time that you just took as the truth, right? It was their truth. It may have been very relevant whenever they were growing up, but it doesn't have to be your, you know, like the 9 to 5, the working the same job was their truth to retire at 30 years, 40 years of working in the same job. That was their truth. That was success to them. Success for me means making in 5 years the amount that it took my father 40 years to make, right? Because I don't have to have a 9 to 5. I can do it online. There's the possibility. And so a lot of times it's moving into imagination. It's moving into hope that there is another possibility, but sometimes that doesn't seem like a realistic version of the truth, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Like another big one we hear is, I know I should believe in abundance. I know I should believe in it, right? But it just doesn't feel real.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And it
like fake it
doesn't,
till you make it. You can't do fake it till you make it. That doesn't work.
no, no. Abundance. And so we'll talk about energy a little bit, but abundance and energy and authenticity and money are all connected, right? And so this thought about it, so a lot of times people don't even believe that it's possible to understand abundance after divorce, especially if they don't walk away with everything, right? They don't walk away with $1 million in the bank. They walk away with debt. They walk away with a house they might be, like in over their heads with. They walk
Mhm.
away with a car they never wanted, and so part of this is you have to stop forcing yourself to believe that those are the things that you wanted. The better point of entry is to start believing that you have the capability of understanding a new form of abundance and creating it for yourself. So, again, let's go back to that little tiny apartment. I'm going to go to Marshall's and I'm going to get frilly pillows. I'm going to have fluffy everything. I'm going to have a comfortable couch. I always had a couch that looked good, right? It was big and it was leather and it was expensive and it looked good in that great room because nobody should sit on it and nobody should be comfortable, right? So when you start to look into what is abundance for me, abundance may be soft things. It may be surrounding yourself with blue feathers because you love blue feathers, right? And so it's just taking little tiny steps. And, a lot of times, like, affirmations seem kind of fake, like, I am abundant, I am this, like, sometimes people are like, well, I don't feel it yet and I
Mhm.
can't fake it. So instead, kind of use reframes. And so a good reframe will have two requirements. One, it will feel true and it will bring relief from you. So a good example is, even though I feel scared, I'm open to believing that I will be okay. So it's reframing your situation and saying, hey, I know in the past that living in a big mansion was all I ever dreamed about as a young girl. Like, everybody told me to marry somebody that was going to take care of you and provide for you, and you could live in a mansion. But to me, it started to feel like a glass cage. And for me, it felt like I wasn't free. I wasn't abundant. I wasn't capable of doing those things. So right now you have to start to shift and say, okay, I can create that abundance. And if I create it, it may feel more real, right? If I
Mhm.
go thrift a Louis Vuitton bag, I
Mhm.
got the Louis bag, but I only paid $50 for it, right? Like,
Exactly.
you can have all of it, but you have to open up your imagination that it is possible. And that's, I think, the first step is like, it is even possible. So if you don't feel good about affirmations, I don't care. You need to start saying them anyway. And you need to say them as an I am statement. I
Mhm.
am abundant. I am protected. I am safe. I am secure. I am the keys to my own freedom. And then start to reframe some of the things that you say, but like really weren't ever your words, right? Start to distinguish, like, I'm saying these things, but like, how do I just change my opinion? It's very easy to change things. You just change your opinion of it, and then you operate in a different path.
Yes. Yes. And when I talk to you, every single time I talk to you, I'm like, okay, I feel so good. I'm like, okay, I've got this, and I'm gonna blah blah blah. And then manage to talk myself out of it almost every single time later on. I'm like, okay, I might just need a little Melissa refresh like tomorrow.
Right, right.
So, I feel like writing down everything you say sometimes. What about this one? This one's a favorite. It shows up in so many smart, successful women. The question of control versus intuition.
Hmm. So we talk about intuition a lot, and I think it's hard sometimes to understand what intuition feels like when a lot of these trauma responses or old inherited trauma thoughts are really pervasive in your brain. Okay. And I will have to say, I mean, it was probably about 5 years ago that I really leaned into my own healing from grief, from a position of grief where I lost two family members in a very short time frame. And I had to start being like, okay, let's start looking at what you believe and if that's working for you.
Mhm.
And so intuition is very calm. Intuition is very specific, so like when you're driving down the street and something is like, you should go in that store, you should go left, you should go left, you should go left, that's more intuition, right? And you're
Mhm.
like, well, I don't. And when you start to question it, right, you start to logically question a feeling that you just know you should do, that is what you have to stop doing. So the intuition says go to the store. Instead, just be like, hey, I'm going to go in the store. What's the worst case, right? I go in the store. I don't like anything. I don't, whatever. I'm just going to go see. I'm going to trust my intuition and go into it. Now, trauma is loud. It's urgent. It's
Mhm.
panicked. It's more like rambling. Okay. Like, oh my God, I need to go in the store, but I don't know if I should go to the, like all of that is actually more of your trauma talking. So intuition is going to be very like almost like one word, like a short kind of thought process of like, look in the folder, look in the drawer. And you're like, well, I don't. Then you go into the trauma is like, well, I don't know. Why would I look in the drawer? That seems crazy. Don't look into other people's things. Right. And then your intuition is still like, look in the drawer. And you open up the drawer and it's some piece of information that actually helps you guide you somewhere else. And you're like, well, how could I have possibly known that it was in the drawer? You didn't. You had this sort of knowing or this energy that you were sensing. And typically it takes you getting out of some of that trauma to start to hear the intuition. So a lot of us have learned to override that intuition with logic or fear. And fear is probably the one like, well, I fear that if I look in that drawer, then they're going to think I'm a bad person because I was snooping around. That is stuff that somebody's told you in the past, right? So then you ignore your intuition and you stay small. So practicing meditation, practicing breath work, being still will allow your body to start to give you more awareness. This type of regulation can help you kind of build that inner compass, that intuition, because your intuition will not scream at you, it will whisper. And if you can't hear the whisper, you cannot then pivot into what is an easy way. Like I ask for things to be taught to me or difficult things to be given to me with ease. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I need to learn a lesson. Let it be easy. I don't want it to be hard. I don't want it to cost me a lot of money. I don't want it to hurt me. Like let me hear it as the whisper, and then I will make a different decision because my intuition is telling me to do it different
Mhm.
regardless of what my brain is saying. Right?
That's, yeah, such a great distinction, you know, between the two, and that's a game changer for me, and it's so true. Christianity talks about it in a different way, but it's literally the same thing you just said. Like
Yeah.
there's the same. There's a whisper. There's it's happened to me twice recently where it's like you need to call your friend Chrissy. I called. She had gotten into a car accident the day before. Crazy, right? You need to call your mom. I called her yesterday. Yeah, I haven't been feeling well. I'm like, oh, okay. So like once I started actually like acting on the whisper or the nudge or the whatever it is that you want to call it, right? Um, it proves itself to be true. You're like, oh, I need to do this all the time. These were just two little instances.
Most of the time it's about flow. And so, and I talk to, I have the benefit of having a father with a recent stroke. Okay. And I talked to him, I was like, this is now a time where you're in flow. You wake up when you wake up, you eat when you're hungry, you go do things, and there's no time constraints. There's no, I got to be here at this certain time. And I practice this in my healing of operating in flow. When you're creative, you create. When you're focused, you focus, right? Allow yourself to get into that. And you know what he said? He said, yeah, but it feels like I lost everything. So he didn't find comfort in the flow, right? Because it was felt better to be very constricted and having that tight schedule that he did forever and ever and ever. Like when he had the stroke, his clients were like, he hasn't ever canceled an appointment in 15 years.
Right.
Okay. So he's never taken a long trip, like very rarely in 15 years. Again, that brought him comfort, but it also was probably a trauma response of I'm only valid when I'm working. I'm only worth something when I'm doing something, as opposed to if you're just flowing, it might feel like I need to be productive. I need to be doing something. You're practicing doing this so that you're getting more in connection with your body. This is why you go into nature. This is why I like to go into nature, because you can start to hear yourself, right? You can start to feel like nature will help you if you really pay attention. The birds are going to tell you when there's something going on, right? The animals are going to tell you that like either you're the threat or there's a bigger threat down the road, right? So if you start to hear some of that, you can start to decipher, are these opinions that I want to keep or do I want to get rid of them? Like they never really helped me, thinking that making money was hard and that I have to work hard to do it. That like really didn't help me. That actually made me get close to burnout. Like I like the idea that money just comes to me and I am abundance and I don't chase, I attract, right? That feels like more empowering than the other one. So that's the mental process of like, let's get rid of some of those old things that we just kept on saying over and over again. And let's start introducing things that may feel uncomfortable. Affirmations feel uncomfortable. Some of these things, intuition feels uncomfortable. That's okay. Embrace the uncomfortable, because as it becomes normal, think about what you're saying. I am abundance, right? So when I look around, I'm like, well, like it's Friday. Like I have food on the table. Like I have a place to be. I have people that want to see me. That is you engaging in abundance and seeing it already prevalent in, maybe you were looking at those things as not abundance, so it's an active thing. Just like you have to actively exercise, you have to actively start to get rid of those limiting beliefs, those negative thoughts, and start to introduce that you go into flow and you allow your body to maybe take you in places. And we really have told people in the past to just take a day, take like an intuition walk, right? Take a day where you're going to get in your car and you're just going to go. It doesn't matter. You can go to a friend's, like whatever it is, whatever pops up, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go to the farmer's market. Let's see what, and then after that, you're going to be like, where do I feel like going now? Well, I'm going to go check on Aunt Betty. Great. Maybe when you get to Aunt Betty's, she's like, oh, I have this little tchotchke for you. And you're like, oh man, I need to go visit, like just allow it to flow. And then at the end of the day, journal down what happened. Like, who did you meet that it seems so synchronistic that like, oh my gosh, can you believe I didn't know when I got to Aunt Betty's house that Uncle Johnny was going to be there and he gave me $1,000 that he owed me from 5 years ago. I could have never imagined that could happen. Of course you can't. Because if you go in flow, you don't have to imagine it happening. You have to allow it to happen. And then you see, oh, that's why I was supposed to be there. Oh, that makes sense now. It makes sense after if you deal with intuition. So you get rid of that logic brain. And I know that this is going to be hard for y'all to do. So we might put a little, it'll be like a scavenger hunt for a day, like an intuition day where you just go based on like you want to eat and it's 3:15 and everybody's like, no, you don't eat now. You eat. What do you want to have? Go fuel yourself. You don't want to? You want to have a smoothie while you go do something else? No rules, no judgment, nobody else on the way. You do this alone. You let your own energy and body, because guess what? You're going to be like at 3:15, you're like, I'm hungry. I think I want a taco. And whoever you're with is going to be like, yeah, I don't feel like tacos today. And you're not going to get a taco, right?
So that would be tragic because tacos are like my favorite thing ever.
That's what I'm saying.
Taco, let me tell you. But I agree with that. I agree. Sometimes it's hard to do a day. So like, just figure it out. Is it a morning? Is it a this? Is it a that? But like, we're all like high functioning, exhausted.
Let's go to what you just said. What did you just say? It's hard to take a whole day.
Hard to take a whole day. I just said that. I know.
You're like, oh God. Oh, like even you were just like, oh, a whole day?
A whole day.
Okay, I can't. Let's start basic. No, it is so crazy that we as high performing women who are making good money, right? Yeah. Can't take a freaking day and because we got a lot of family, we got people, we got all these people relying upon. You need to take a whole, and the harder it is for you to conceptually think about taking a whole day to do this is even more reason of why you would need to do it, right? I'm going to take you on a day. You and I are going to go on a day and we're going to go with your intuition because you have healthier intuition than I do. Like you're going to be like, yes, let's go for a hike and go have smoothies. And I'm going to be like, yes, let's go have like ice cream and sit around and go shopping or something, like, yes.
I've taken you shopping. You're miserable. You don't like that either.
I know. I don't like that either. I don't like spending money.
Right, you're right. I was thinking baby steps, but yeah, you're right. And I like me sitting idle or feeling like I'm not being productive during a work day or something makes my skin crawl. And I'm trying to really hone in on, I don't have to work 8 hours a day. There's like, if I don't have 8 hours worth of work to do, I don't have to work 8 hours. I can go do something else and still get the same amount accomplished. I mean, we're
and then you would maybe
feel like I have to fill it.
You would maybe do it on a Sunday then, right? Yeah. Sundays are a lot of sticky ickies for a lot of people. So wake up, do whatever is spiritual to you sometimes. Do that and then decide like, would I like to go to brunch or would I like to go for like, you can use it as a this or that. If you don't know how to rely upon your intuition, just be like, okay, do I want to go with brunch or do I want to do this? But you're still kind of dictating how the day goes based on flow and how you feel, not based on what anybody else is doing. That's just the key is that you're like you might want to go be with some people with brunch. That's perfectly fine. You're determining that that's what you need. Like I need to be around some people to feel good. That's perfectly fine. But you're not going to take them for the rest of the day, right? You're going to go and do something else until at the end of the day. And you're not going to go and plan for your week. You're not going to go and go do all of the meal prep and all that shit. I know all of you people are type A and you do that on Sunday. I do not. I do not do that on Sunday. So this is going to be a fun exercise.
It is. Because overworking is not a strength. It's a survival pattern. It is. Yeah. And so so here's a couple things we learned today, right? You can't logic your way into safety. Your nervous system must feel safe. Okay. Reframes sometimes work better than affirmations when you're healing from trauma. It's a more logical way for you to make sure, but it has to have two things, right, Melissa? Reframes. It has to provide relief and it has to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So money is energy. It flows where it feels safe to go. So make a safe place for it. And remember, it's like air. It comes in and it goes out. You don't need to know the exact trauma story. Your body already knows. So you don't have to keep repeating it. You can move on to something else and tell yourself a different story. And then high performance doesn't equal healing. Rest, trust, stillness matter too. And maybe just letting your day take you where it's going to take you, right? So if this conversation opened up something in you, maybe sparked a memory or gave you words for something you've felt for years, don't ignore that. That's your healing process starting. If you want more support, the Ally Circle is also another step where you can, go and find resources. Of course, the Divorce Allies that you're already in is a great resource as well. So join us next time. And Melissa, always insightful. I'm so glad we did this. We didn't think we were going to have much to talk about today. We went for almost an hour. And I could sit here and talk to you for another hour about all this for some reason.
Well, and I think we'll put together some fun worksheets. We really want you to, we talk about money a lot, especially you and I. We talk about how to plan. We talk about negotiation strategies. And so you have to start also dealing with your healing as if it is as important as your divorce strategy or your money strategy or your workout strategy, right? Start to kind of shift your money story, start to actively understand your intuition in a safe space and shift out of that shame around money into being like, you are worthy. You're worthy to have a soft life. You're worthy to have abundance and money flowing into your life at all times. And it is a practice. And so people don't just get confident and secure. They build that. That is over time. That is doing things that is true, regardless of what anybody else says. And I know that from experience because that's what I do every day. But it takes some learning and reworking things. So be easy on yourself. Be gentle. If you can't fathom a day, don't do it. Do whatever feels comfortable for you. If you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and do 3 hours of your own stuff before anybody wakes up in the safety of your own home, do that. Create something that starts to build you up so that you are so very powerful and you can make these decisions. You can rely upon your intuition and instincts. And when you make the decisions, there's nothing anybody can do to change that because that is highly aligned for you, right? And so to hear that whisper is a very powerful thing. And we want to continue to support you. And if you need anything or want new information, certainly check out the divorceallies.com and continue to watch videos on this YouTube channel. So we appreciate you and we will see you soon.